Imagine a scale between 0 and 10. 0 is the unhappiest person you know. 10 is the happiest person you've ever met. What's your number?
Today we are joined by social scientist and professor Arthur Brooks, previously at Harvard Business School.
The depression and anxiety epidemic that we see all around the world, that's not because of work burnout. You think that when you get into the corner office, you're going to be happier. You're not. I have the data.
He has researched happiness for the past 30 years and has coached hundreds of CEOs, billionaires, people that have achieved incredible success.
People think, well, if I get a boat, will I be happier? No, you won't. If I get the world's most expensive car, will I be happier? Nope. A fourth house, these things won't do it. But there are ways that you can spend money on and that you actually should that will bring greater happiness. There's 5 ways you can spend your money.
What are some of the qualities of the happiest people that you've met?
There are 4 behaviors that I see of the happiest possible people. Here are the rules that we need to teach our kids.
So I want to go back to the morning. So set the scene for me.
I get up from 7:30 to 11:30.
I just want to start off with the course that you taught at Harvard.
Right.
And I heard that it was one of the most popular courses ever at the school, almost to the point that there was a Zoom link that was shared illicitly. Is that true?
Yeah, no, for the longest time, this is a class in elective that the students would take in the second year. And there's a lot of competition to get into some of these electives. And my class usually had 180 students enrolled and 400 on the waiting list.
Wow.
So they were looking for ways to kind of get the insight from the class and to say, are there other ways that I can get it? And it turned out that a lot of them were using the COVID link and passing it around. And so that was the illegal Zoom link they thought I was not aware of. They want to be happier. And that's what people want. That's what people want in their lives. They want to be happier people. They want to have happier children. They want to bring more happiness to others. And it turns out that just studying business doesn't do that. I mean, business is great. I'm a business school professor. I've been a CEO. I've done a lot of things with my career. But one of the things that I know is that the rewards of the world are not the secret to happiness. And they're figuring that out over the course of their MBA. Well, I've been doing work on the science of happiness ever since I got my PhD almost 30 years ago. And I have seen big changes in young people and their orientation toward happiness. So my students, for sure, my adult kids, for sure, but people all over the world. Largely the change started happening in 2008, thereabouts.
Is it the financial crisis?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It turns out it's devices that actually changed the way that we live. It was kind of a hurricane, a downward force in human happiness. When devices started to take over people's lives, people started to get more depressed and more anxious and lonelier. And the reason is because they were putting a screen between themselves and other people. The secret to happiness is love and relationships. That's what it comes from. And when you're more isolated, what you're getting on your phone is a simulation of relationships. It's not real relationships, and your brain knows the difference. And so a lot of the work that I do is how we've broken our brains with technology, and it's made us a lot less happy.
I want to ask a fundamental question.
Sure.
How do you define happiness?
Yeah, and that's the first thing that I did when I came into this field. There have been a lot of people writing about happiness over the years, and the biggest problem is they don't have a good definition of happiness. Everybody has kind of their own sense of it.
It could be 100 different things.
It could be, and when I ask my students on the first day of class, what do you think you're studying? And they always say the same thing. They say, well, professor, I can't put it into words, but I know it when I feel it. And what they're saying is that happiness is a feeling, but that's wrong. Happiness and the feeling of happiness are not the same thing. Feelings of happiness are evidence of actual happiness. Like the smell of dinner is evidence of dinner. It's not the same thing.
Right.
And if you're looking for feelings, you're just looking for evidence of something, you'll never actually get it. You need something that's more fundamentally rigorous, something that has content.
Right.
And so I went back to the best scientific definitions, and I also noticed what were the attributes of the lives of the happiest people. And what we found in this research is that the best definition of happiness is kind of like the definition of food with macronutrients, which is a combination of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Right? The same thing with happiness. Happiness is a combination of enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. So you need to enjoy your life to be a happy person from day to day. You have to take satisfaction with your accomplishments, meaning you get joy after a struggle.
Right.
And you have to find the why of your existence, the meaning of your life. And those are the 3 big objectives, as it turns out. So when I'm teaching people how to be happier, I'm working on those 3 things. I test them to see where they're weak, and I give them techniques to get those things stronger.
I see. What are some of the qualities of the happiest people that you've met?
The happiest people that I meet, and there are so many, about half of it is genetic.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I don't want that to be true because I want everything to be under our control. We're entrepreneurial people, and this is the entrepreneurial endeavor. Exactly right. But the truth is, about half of your happiness half of the difference in happiness that we see between individuals is explained by their genetic similarity.
The science of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. And so we know this from identical twins that are separated at birth and adopted into separate families, and they're reunited as adults. You can find that most of their personalities is actually genetically predetermined, including their happiness, half of their happiness. I wish it weren't true, but by the way, that's okay, because if you know anything about yourself genetically, you can manage your circumstances to manage your genetics.
Okay.
I mean, people who have alcoholic parents, they tend to be more alcoholic, but that means they should know that so they can not drink, because you can actually change the outcome by behavior. Another quarter of your happiness is circumstantial. So nice circumstances lead to greater happiness, and not nice circumstances lead to the opposite. But those are transient. It turns out that circumstances don't last very long. So if bad things are happening, it won't last. If good things are happening, it won't last.
Right.
But that's 25% at any one time. And then 25% are habits. That last 25% are what matter the most, because you have direct management over 25% of your happiness, also giving you better circumstances and allowing you to manage your genetics. All you need to think about are the behaviors. There are 4 behaviors that I see of the happiest possible people. These are people who practice their faith or life philosophy seriously. These are people who take care of their family relationships. They're paying attention to their families, not neglecting their families, and not having bitterness inside their families. These are people who have real friends, not deal friends. These are people who are doing the work, and these are people who are dedicating their work to just 2 things: earning their success, which is to say creating real value, and serving other people. That's what they have. And I don't care if they're plumbers or politicians or professors, CEOs or journalists or anything in between. You need to believe that you're doing something that creates value and you're being recognized for it, and that you're serving other people. And those are the big 4: faith, family, friends, and work. Those are the behaviors that will give you better circumstances and allow you to manage your genetics and give you the most happiness that you can possibly get.
Okay, so it seems like finding the meaning and sharing that with other people.
For sure. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And, one of the reasons that I teach leadership and happiness at the Harvard Business School is because I want to create happiness teachers like me. I want people to see their leadership careers. And by the way, there's a secret to that too, which is when leaders actually become happiness teachers, the leaders get happier.
Right.
The secret.
How do you become happier ever since you started teaching?
So much happier. I'm 60% happier than I was when I started teaching happiness, as a matter of fact. And I measure it every year. I have good measurement techniques for that. And it turns out that it absolutely works.
How do you measure it?
Well, you measure it by asking to, for example, here's a classic question. Imagine a scale between 0 and 10. 0 is the unhappiest person you know. Think about that person. Okay. 10 is the happiest person you've ever met. Think of that person.
Got it.
What's your number? And what's your number, but not right now, at this point in your life, more or less. Not on your best day, not on your worst day, but really on the average day. And when you think about it, you're going to get a number in your head. And that number is very stable. It moves around a little bit, but not that much, unless you change your circumstances a lot and systematically so. And that's what's happened to me. I've moved up by about 60% or since I've been teaching happiness and dedicating myself to bringing this to people all around the world. This is my secret to happiness.
What kinds of people have you met, and are there any commonalities among them?
Yeah, so I specialize in strivers. And strivers are people who just never stop. They never stop working. And they're some of the most successful people in the world because they work so hard at it, and they have particular personality attributes. They have a tendency to think that the harder I run, the better it's actually going to go. They often have a hard time enjoying their lives. They have a hard time taking satisfaction in their accomplishments because they're never quite there as it happens. And a lot of the people that I work with, the biggest pathology I would say is that they tend to only really get satisfaction from succeeding in business, succeeding in their industry. That makes them quite workaholic. And workaholism is really damaging, especially to your relationship. So a lot of the people that I see are the most successful people in the world that are struggling with their marriages. They're struggling having a relationship with their children. And I have to coach them on how to do less in their work so they can do more in their lives. That's one of the things that I find. Now, by the way, I'm very sympathetic to that. I'm a workaholic too. I like to work. I've been working 60, 80 hours a week my entire career, no matter what I've been doing. And for me, I have to take my own advice, and people have to sometimes they have to give me counsel to take my own advice and read my own books.
Relationships are really, just as you said, they're so integral to us feeling happy in our lives.
Right.
What are some kinds of people that you should keep very close to you,
Right.
and one should probably keep at a distance in order to maintain happiness.
Of course, yeah, and we do need to have good prudential judgment when it comes to the people in our lives, for sure. Now, the fundamental relationships that we need to keep close to us are our family members. For some people, that's easy. Some people watching us, that's an easy thing to do. But for a lot of successful people, it actually isn't. You know, I know a lot of people who have cold marriages, as a matter of fact, and the reason is because the striver in the marriage is gone all the time, and the spouse of the striver is lonely.
Yeah.
And they become very lonely as that works. So they don't know their children very well. So one of the things that I recommend is remember that when you're when you're old and dying, your colleagues aren't going to be there. You know, the people who work with you are not going to be standing around your bed. And at your funeral, nobody's going to talk about how many frequent flyer miles you have. That's not what's going to be happening. Either your family is going to be gathered around you talking about what a great husband, wife, child, parent, brother, sister that you were, or not.
Like the eulogy virtues.
Exactly right, as opposed to the resume virtues. Right. The second is actually what is to get real friends. And you know, in my work, I talk an awful lot about how strivers, they struggle with friendship. I mean, all the CEOs watching us today, they have people around them constantly. You never have a moment's peace, as a matter of fact. And you'll say, these are my friends. But are they real friends or deal friends? And real and deal are not the same thing, you know, and we all kind of know what the difference is. Deal friends are useful people to us, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. We all work with all kinds of people that we like. I have lots of people I work with that I really like a lot. But real friends are useless to you. Mm-hmm. They don't profit your business. You don't need them in some sort of worldly way. You just love these people. And you need to have a lot of real friends, which takes work, and it takes time away from your ordinary work, as a matter of fact. So those are two of the earthly relationships I talk about. One other that I talk about an awful lot is having a relationship with the metaphysical. And one of the things that I find is that strivers often wish they had more religious activity in their lives, but they don't do it because they don't have time to do it. And so I have to coach people.
Sorry, when you talk about metaphysical, you mean faith?
I mean faith. I mean faith or spirituality or maybe even just a deep philosophical life is what it can come down to. I know a lot of, you know, hard-charging people that learn to study the Stoics and get a tremendous amount of meaning from that.
Yes, I love
I do too.
It, yeah,
me too. But you know, personally, as a Catholic, it's a really important thing for me to have a traditional religious faith. And a lot of very successful people, they do have kind of a religious faith, but they don't practice it, and they wish they did. And I have to recommend to them that they build a relationship, quite frankly, with God. And they will find a lot of satisfaction and a lot of meaning in that.
Yeah. When you advise those very successful people, find these relationships, invest in them, and they say, I don't have time. I'm running a company. These people depend on me. You know, this is how we pay the bills. What do you say? I
say I have the data on this, and the more that you actually spend time in the relationships, the more efficient and productive you will become. You know, the people who say I don't have time for friendship or for my family, they're spending the 14th hour of the office as opposed to the first hour with their kids. And I've got the data. I'm a quantitative economist. I know what's happening in that 14th hour. You know what it is? Nothing. There's no productivity going on in that 14th hour. You're tired. But the point is you don't have a relationship with those people. And so it's easier to be at the office than the first hour with your demanding children or with friends and you don't even know what to talk about. And so the point is you need to apportion your time and set up your time and your schedule in the same efficient and the same wise way that you would your own business. You know, you wouldn't actually assign 14 hours of work to one of your employees, I hope. And yet you're your most, I know, but you're your most important employee and you're assigning 14 hours of work to yourself. And that's a mistake.
When you tell the people that you coach about relationships, not just personal, but do they ever talk about the work relationships? Because it's such a big part of success and about making your mark on the world.
For sure. They talk about that all the time. And one of the things that they don't know is what are the most common emotions that leaders face that nobody tells them. There's one mistake that you're making, folks, and it's this. You think that when you get into the corner office, you're going to be happier. You're not. I have the data. I wish it were true. I've been a CEO. I was a CEO for 11 years.
You weren't happier?
I was not happier. And I was not happier. And,
why is that?
And the reason is because the predominant emotions for CEOs are loneliness and anger. Loneliness and anger. Loneliness. Why? Because all your old friends, they're hanging out with each other. They don't want to hang out with you. They don't want to hang out with you. The worst time in the average worker's day is time spent with the boss. And the reason is not because the boss is bad. The boss might be great. The reason is because people don't like to be bossed. They don't like to be evaluated. You don't want to have lunch with somebody who's like might fire you. Yeah. That's not fun. That's not fun for people. And so a lot of people they get elevated into the chief executive position, and then they find that they're really lonely because their old friends are different. They've changed. They become very isolated, and they become angry because they thought they were going to have all this control, and they don't, over their own lives and over the lives of other people. These are fundamentally relationship issues, and you need to learn how to relate to people differently when you actually become a leader, is the way that works. And so that's relationship management for leaders is something I talk about an awful lot.
So is that your way of saying that loneliness is probably, I mean, they say it's lonely at the top, right? Yeah. And so if you can't change that, you just find a different strategy to make those relationships work where you are.
That is true, but also you need new relationships is what it comes down to. That's one of the reasons that the CEOs who tend to be happiest are those who have good marriages. Because your best friend is your roommate, is the person you're going to bed with every night. That should be your best friend. Yeah. That's somebody who actually knows your secrets and who cares about you as a person, not as a CEO. I mean, you're not going to come home to your wife and she's going to say, "Hi, boss." I hope, right? I mean, and "Hi, honey." That's what you want, actually, and that's the kind of relationship you need to cultivate. You need friends outside, which is one of the reasons I coach a lot of people to go back to the people that they loved the most in college. You know, when they were in college, that's when people make a lot of their early young adult best friendships, and going back and recultivating those friendships and going and golfing with those people.
As opposed to business contacts.
Exactly right. I mean, business contacts, that's business. But you need to actually cultivate the love in your life and the friendships in your life as well. And then I actually recommend that a lot of chief executives that they get into, they form groups of chief executives.
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, where these kind of, there's, you know, the group YPO, all over the world. It's a fantastic organization. They have the YPO forums. Join one. And they're talking about the struggles that they face in a low pressure environment because, you know, nobody's going to judge you. You're going to learn from each other is the way that works. So those are ways that you can take care of that. But don't be lonely. Don't put up with that.
Yeah. Okay, for you.
Right.
Let's say that you had a month off.
Right.
Free from all obligation. How would you choose to spend that time?
Yeah. So I could take a month off free from all because I have a lot of control at this age of my own life, and I've chosen not to take a month off typically. But when I've spent it the same way in the past. The last couple of times I've taken a month off, I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a long walk across northern Spain.
Yeah.
It's a pilgrimage. It's a religious pilgrimage. And all you're doing is walking and praying and thinking.
And being with yourself.
Right. And it has been incredibly generative.
How many times have you done
Twice.
this?
I've done that twice. In 2019 and 2021, I did it. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. My wife doesn't love it, I have to say, because, just walking for, weeks and weeks is not, her cup of tea.
Do you talk while you walk?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
For sure. And we spend a lot of time together, and it's really good for our marriage, for sure. But I mean, it's like she likes the beach and likes doing normal things as well. But that's really what I like to do because it gives me philosophical time. And there's a lot of research that shows that pilgrimages, whether they're secular or religious, they're very, very good for the brain, very good for the mind, very good for the soul. And I recommend that everybody take time away. And if you don't know what to do and you have a lot of unanswered questions in your life, go for a long walk. That's the most human thing you can do.
So walking is great. But I also have a question about sleep.
Right.
So there's a saying that in order to be happy, you just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Based on your research and what we know about the brain and the body, is that true?
Well, it's sort of true. The problem with that is that confuses happiness and unhappiness. So happiness and unhappiness are not opposites. They're actually processed emotionally in different halves of the brain. Largely, unhappiness is produced on the right-hand side of the brain, and it's an excess of negative emotionality and negative experiences. That's actually the producers of unhappiness. And you're unhappy for good reasons. You need negative emotions as kind of an alarm system for threats to make sure that you stay alive. And you need fear and sadness and anger and disgust. You need these things for sure. The problem is when they start to become obstructive, when they start to take over your life. Sleep is one of the ways that we manage unhappiness more than it doesn't make us happy. So, and there are a lot of things like exercise is better for managing unhappiness than bringing happiness. And so one of the things that I talk about with executives is we do an inventory. What's your bigger challenge, happiness or unhappiness? And then you manage to your bigger challenge. And so with a lot of executives, they're pretty happy, but they're also pretty unhappy.
So you tackle the unhappy.
Yeah, exactly right.
I see.
And I take sources of unhappiness out of their life.
Do you tell them to sleep more?
Yeah, I tell them to sleep more. I tell them to get into the gym. I tell them to cut down on their commute. I talk to them about how to manage anxiety in their relationships, what to do actually with chronic worry. These are things that I'm working with executives and athletes and actors and people like that who have really high levels of unhappiness. So happiness isn't the problem.
I see. So you approach it from the other side.
Exactly right.
So for people who are finding their lives empty or devoid of meaning or unenjoyable, what is a question that they should ask themselves in order to start rebuilding a life that is happier?
So that's a lot about what I write about now, which is the meaning of life. What is the meaning of meaning, and why is it such a problem? The depression and anxiety epidemic that we see all around the world, that's not because of work burnout. That's because of social media and screens.
I see.
That's because of the overuse of technology. And what that's done is that's leached the sense of meaning out of our lives. Now, there's a reason for that fundamentally, which is when you're using technology, you're forcing brain activity into the left hemisphere of your brain. The right hemisphere is where you deal with meaning. And so you're not even asking meaning questions anymore. And that makes people's lives weirdly feel empty. And that's been happening more and more and more since 2008, 2009. We've seen it progressively. That's happening every place. I mean, I see whole families around the dinner table all over the world where everybody's looking at their phones. And well, surprise, surprise, people are getting depressed and anxious as a result of that. That's what people need to be paying attention to, is paying attention to the way that technology is interacting with their lives and the extent to which they're becoming lonely and isolated from other people. And that's the thing that actually needs to change.
So on social media, because I think people these days they're more accustomed to provocative content, sensational content on shorts and reels and clickbait news. Social media is a part of life. You can't completely get rid of it, but what advice do you have for people to make that platform, if not beneficial, less harmful?
You can make it beneficial. You absolutely can, but we have to put guardrails around it. So
time.
Yeah, time to begin with. When you're looking at it during the day, the total amount and what you're using it for. Those are the three basic rules. So the time, it shouldn't ever be in the first hour of the day. You should never look at social media in the first hour of the day, because that's when neurocognitive programming is most important. That's when you're setting the theme for the rest of your day. Your brain is starting to work consciously during that period. You also shouldn't look at it in the last hour of the day, because you'll wreck your sleep architecture. The saddest thing that I ever see is a couple lying in bed and they're both looking at their phones at social media, because that's really isolating. It's really bad for your marriage, but it's also bad for your brain. So that's really important, is when you're doing it. I recommend that looking at social media for not more than 60 minutes a day across all platforms summed together, and doing it during a time that you designate to look at social media. Say, okay, the next 20 minutes, I'm going to look at Instagram. That's what I'm going to do. Look at Instagram I'm going to do it on purpose. I'm not going to do it accidentally. And it's not just going to be because I'm sitting on the train. It's going to be, I've decided that the 20 minutes that I'm on the train, that's my Instagram time, and do it on purpose. Now, what you'll find is that Instagram's super boring. You didn't know that because you had unlimited access to it and you were using it to distract you. But so that means that you need to use it for particular ends. Unfollow everybody you don't know. Everybody that you don't know who's just an influencer or a celebrity. And that stuff is not worth your time. If you're a scientist like I am, then I'm following science accounts. Right now I'm working on a book on relationships, and so I'm following people from all over the world that give relationship advice. Some of it terrible, but I learned from it. The second is loving. Follow people that you actually know and love. Family members, friends, follow those people and interact with them on social media, but not people you don't know unless you're learning from them. And last is laughing, or a sort of dessert after the meal of social media is you got a couple of people that you follow you think are just completely hilarious. But nothing else. Learning, loving, and laughing, and that's it, and no more than an hour a day, and during those times, and your life will change.
Well, I did delete Instagram from my phone a couple months ago, and I've been so much more productive and happier.
Really?
Yes.
You've been happier. Was it hard at first?
No, because I wasn't really on it that much to begin with. But I just noticed every time I looked at it, I wouldn't be...
It would suck you in a little bit.
And I would be thinking about things, which I didn't want to waste my time on. So I highly recommend people.
What do you think? So what about your child?
My child, is she on social media? She's 6. She's never going to be on. Until I can control it.
We'll talk again in 10 years.
So I want to go back to a point that you made about you should never look at your phone the first hour of the day. So I want to go back to the morning. So since you've known so many happy, successful people, hopefully, What is something that you should never do in the morning if you want to stay happy besides social media? Or is that the one thing?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of things that you can actually do that marginally do that. But the big one, of course, is technology. That's the big thing to do.
Email too?
Well, what I recommend for some people, so, you're in this line of work, you kind of need to look at your phone to make sure that nothing is on fire in Korea, because you're working in two countries, the United States and Korea, and they're 12 hours apart, more or less, which means that when you wake up in the morning, it's been all day in Korea. So you need to look at it and say, okay, it's okay, but put it down immediately. When you know that nothing's on fire, you can put down your phone and then not look at it for an hour. So nothing. Then what I recommend is that people actually use that for really that hour, or even a little bit more, for two fundamental activities. Number one is exercise, which when you do it first thing in the morning is very, very good for your brain, very good for your happiness. It's really good for that. So if people are just starting out, go walk outside for an hour. I recommend getting up before dawn. If the sun is already warm, you've lost the first battle. So get up at least half an hour before dawn, and so you can, especially if you're walking outside, the sun comes up. This will change your brain.
Do you get up at dawn?
I get up at 4:30 every day.
Oh, wow.
So that's before dawn all year round. It's a long time before dawn, or just a little bit before dawn, depending on the season, for example. Now that's harder to do if you're living in Finland. Because it's never dark, and so you would never go to bed, and so obviously you need to adapt this to your circumstances for sure.
Is that sustainable though?
Yeah, it really is once you get used to it, and that starts the night before, because we talked about sleep a minute ago.
Yeah.
That means you got to get to bed. If you're getting up at 4:30, you better be going to bed at 9.
Do you go to bed at 9?
Yeah, I do.
Wow,
I go to bed at 9, and I like it. I like it an awful lot. I have to say, I don't take work dinners for that reason. I don't like work dinners because and
you're not going to bed at 9.
You're not going to bed with a work dinner, and and it messes you up. And I'm on the road all the time. I'm on the road 48 weeks a year, and so I need to, I need to have these rules for what I do. And again, I'm not suggesting that any of you folks make the perfect the enemy of the good, right? I mean, you need to adapt this to your own schedule, but these are the basic habits. And then I recommend some meditation time, some reading, or some worship, depending on what your behavior is, what your beliefs are. So as a Catholic, I go to Mass every morning after I exercise, 6:30 every morning. And that's really, really important to me, because that's the soul part of it. Some people read something profound, not work stuff, something deep, something really worthwhile, or they meditate. All of those things are good to do. And by the way, no coffee before the end of that period. So if you're exercising and then using your spiritual time, all of that is unobstructed by chemicals.
I see.
It's really important for your brain. And the other thing about it is that a lot of people use coffee to wake up, and that's a mistake. You should use it to focus as opposed to waking up. And that means you need a couple of hours between waking up and when you drink your caffeine, so that you can use it to focus your brain. And that makes you much more productive and a lot happier. So that's when I eat and drink coffee after all that is done. And then I get 4 unobstructed hours of productive creative work, which I would have only had 2 if I were leaving my brain to what it was doing before. So I recommend some sort of protocol like that, and almost everybody can get good benefits.
So is that what your morning looks like?
That's what my morning looks like.
So set the scene for me.
Right.
The alarm rings, it's
Right.
4:30.
4:30.
Ungodly hour for me.
It's early,
Yeah.
It's early.
So what happens? What do you do?
I get up, I go downstairs, I make an electrolyte water mixture, and I go down to my gym. I have a gym in my house.
I see.
And I work out for an hour. I work out from 4:45 to 5:45.
Are you listening to something?
Sometimes not. I try to at least 2 or 3 times a week not be listening to something, because it's actually good for your brain to work out without headphones.
Right.
And sometimes I do because I'm trying to learn something. I'm not just like zoning out. I'm trying to actually learn something, but something that's not too hard. If it's too hard, I won't learn it, because your blood pressure is moving up and down as you're exercising, and it distracts you. It makes it hard to focus. So it has to be the right kind of thing that I'm learning. Or sometimes music, but the whole point is that sometimes silence is best. That's really good for your brain. 5:45, I'm done. I take a shower. I go to Mass with my wife. We're there at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7.
So you do spiritual and family relationship at once.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
That's right. That's how we start.
So efficient.
That's right. Heart, body, and soul. And then I come back by 7:30. And if I'm working at home, which I do sometimes, either I drive to my office, which is pretty near my home, or when I'm actually at my home, that's when I make coffee, and I have a very, very high protein breakfast. Protein is really important for focus, and it actually will improve mood a lot, especially if it's something like yogurt that has tryptophan, which is a good mood booster, as it turns out. And then I will get from 7:30 to 11:30, 4 hours of incredible focus and productivity.
Because you've already woken up.
I've optimized my brain chemistry.
And you've worked out
Right.
spiritually,
Right.
mind and body.
And my
so you're-
caffeine isn't in there yet.
I see.
And I
And
pour
so
the
you're-
caffeine on top of that.
And
And
focus.
it's a nootropic drug,
I
actually.
see.
It's a
There's all
great
these very
nootropic
difficult
drug.
words. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you learn things.
Yeah, what that does is that actually draws dopamine into the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which gives you creativity and focus.
Without having that social media give it to you
Oh my
and
gosh.
the lingering
Yeah,
effect.
why would you waste your productivity and your
Right.
focus on somebody's idiotic Instagram feed? That's just a big mistake.
So I have a question about AI. But because AI is transforming our world,
Right,
especially in our children's generation,
right.
and so as a professor who teaches students, as a researcher of happiness, but above all as a parent, what is a skill or an ability that you think children must foster in order to find a happiness that's sustainable?
What AI skills specifically?
Not AI skills, not AI, but because we're in an age
Oh,
of
I see.
AI, what skills as a human
Yeah,
do you
so
think children must have?
The skills that they have is not how to use technology, but the right way to integrate technology into your life. So, I mean, everybody knows the technology of screens. Everybody knows how to use a PC. Everybody knows how to use all these particular technologies. But they don't know how to use them right in such a way that they're better for your life. The way to think about small screens, large screens, any screens, and AI for that matter, is if they substitute for human relationships, they're going to make your life worse. And that's what kids need to learn. They need to learn the dangers and how to make these technologies into tools. Your technology is not a friend. The technology is not entertainment. The technology is a tool. And if you're using it as a tool to connect you with people that you love and to make your work easier, great. I love that. But if it's actually obstructing your relationships with other people, it's a big, big problem. So, for example, AI, everybody's talking about AI. I use AI every day. You probably do too. It's a big part of my work. It's doing all kinds of weird things to my profession. It's making books harder to sell.
Yes.
Because people are using AI instead of reading books.
Right, they're summarizing.
It's happening really fast. Really, I mean, it takes a couple of days to read a book. And even I will say, oh man, I don't have time. That book, give me 1,000 words that summarize that book, and it's a pretty good summary, right? So I see that that's actually working. Everybody watching us uses AI, and all the young people are going to use it more. And AI is going to be agentic and better going into the future. Here are the rules that we need to teach our kids, so that we can be more human and not less human. If you're using it as a substitute relationship, it's going to hurt your life. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you anxious. It's going to make you lonely, which means you should never use it as a friend. You should never use it to get the girlfriend experience.
Or as a therapist.
And especially never as a therapist. You don't ask it for advice in ways beyond sort of mechanical things in your life. How to set up your vacation, 2 thumbs up. How to fix your relationship with your mother, that's a problem, right? Do you understand me? 3 years of conversations with ChatGPT, it might feel like a real person understands you, but your brain knows the difference, and your brain will make you pay. It will make you lonelier and more depressed, even if it seems human-like. What do you want it to do? To do all the how-to and what questions that you're working with in your work, and then use the time that it saves for you to spend in person with real-life human beings, and that's how you'll get that's how your life will be better.
So you mentioned that you go visit the Dalai Lama almost every year.
Almost every year, yeah.
What have you learned about life from your time with him?
Yeah, the Dalai Lama and I have known each other for the past 13 years, and it's been a wonderful and rewarding relationship. I brought him to the States several times, and I've gone to his home in Dharamsala in the Himalayan foothills where he has his monastery, and we've done conferences and meetings together. We've written together, we've written articles together, we've shot a documentary film together, and it's been a really beautiful relationship. So I've learned so very much from him. And what I've learned from him is this idea that life is, I've learned a lot of things from him. Actually, I could, at some point I'll write a book about all the lessons I've learned from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In my new book, The Meaning of Your Life, I actually have one of the chapters starts with my relationship with the Dalai Lama and things that I've learned from him. But fundamentally, one of the things I think about every day that he taught me is that the life requires that we have goals and direction, so that we can have direction, so we can go in a particular direction and make progress. But we shouldn't be attached to the thing that we're looking for. Everybody watching us, all the strivers who are watching us, they have all these big goals in their life and dreams, and great. I admire that so much. The Dalai Lama says that's intention. You need intention in your life. That gives you purpose and meaning and focus, and that's great. but don't be attached to that. Always say to yourself, I have these goals. It's going to be that or something better. And that's a Buddhist concept called intention without attachment. Okay. And that's really changed my life. It's really changed my life a lot because I'm such a hard worker, and I'm always going in as many miles an hour as I possibly can. I mean, bring it on. But I recognize that the ultimate outcome is a little bit out of my control. I believe it's in God's hands. Mm-hmm. And so I pray every day. I say, I'm working for something that I want, but not my will, your will, because I know your will will be better than mine. And even if you're not religious, you can do that as well. The Dalai Lama is not praying to God like I am, but he says you need to have intention toward a goal and not be attached to the goal itself. That's the right frame of mind for everybody in business, actually. That's actually the frame of mind that leads to the best business outcomes.
It seems to make sense, but then you think of, we have to reach these targets.
Right.
That's what they have in these meetings.
I know, but it's a really interesting thing because what we've studied at the Harvard Business School is not the Dalai Lama's philosophy, but we have studied the most successful CEOs. And what they all have in common is that they set the goal, they set the object of the intention, and then they focus on the process.
Not the result.
Not the result. Focus on the process, not the result. That's what all the greatest CEOs do. If you're focusing on the result, not the process, your company's going to fall apart.
But have the intent.
Have the intent, absolutely. But if you have the intent and then you design the process to meet the goal and then you focus on the process, you're going to get the goal or something better.
The intention is to be happier.
Right.
So that's the intention.
Right.
The process is
enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning.
And all the things that we discussed to get toward it, but don't be attached to whether you find out if it's actually happening or you're happy.
No, not exactly right. Because the people who walk around all day saying, am I happy? I want to be happier. They're so unhappy.
Right.
They're so unhappy. But the people who are actually doing something, doing the things that actually bring more happiness, those are the people who are most effective. So for example, I talk to a lot of people who have trouble in their marriages. Yeah. Like they can't stop fighting for all sorts of reasons. And they say, I want to have a happier marriage. I want to have a happier. Stop worrying about having a happier marriage. Do the 3 or 4 things you need to do to have a happier marriage. Focus on those things. And guess what? The intention will lead to a goal that takes care of itself.
So there's a saying that money can't buy happiness. But there are also certain things that you shouldn't skimp on, even if you're financially stretched, in order to be happy. What are some of those things for you?
It is true that money can't buy happiness under the traditional circumstances. People think, well, if I get a boat, will I be happier? No, you won't. If I get the world's most expensive car, will I be happier? Nope. A 4th house, these things won't do it. Right. But there are ways that you can spend money on and that you actually should that will bring greater happiness. There's 5 ways you can spend your money. You can buy things, you can buy experiences and spend those experiences with people you love. You can buy time and use that time to better yourself or spend it with people you love. You can give the money away to things you really, really care about, and you can save your money. Those are the 5 things. And you have to do every single dollar that you earn, you have to do one of those 5 things with it, right? It turns out that everybody thinks, because Mother Nature doesn't care if you're happy, that buying the stuff is what will actually make you happy, and that's the only one that won't. The other 4 will. If you buy experiences and spend the time with people you love, if you buy time and have more time with the people in your life or time in bettering yourself and exercising and praying or whatever you do, that's really great. If you give your money away to people you care about, the causes that are meaningful, or if you save for the future, which gives you and your children a better future, all those things actually will buy happiness. And so the important thing is not spending more money. The important thing is spending your money on the right thing. Right. And if you understand that you have to go against your nature to buy more junk, and spend it on the things that actually matter, you'll get happier.
I think this is a great way to end. So Professor Brooks, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with me.